And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going
Wow.
on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah, nothing else to say. Wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV. Special bundles with premium membership from Chess24. Super discounts on merchandise. Massive sales on courses from Chessable. Chessable and Chess24 bundles. With new deals appearing every day. Visit chess24.com/deals.
Hello everyone, welcome to my stream. This is Grandmaster Liem Quang, and today I am going to have a question and answer session for an hour. So you guys are welcome to ask me anything. Just post your questions there and I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. So in the meantime, I'll play one game before starting answering your questions. So if anyone wants to play with me, just challenge me on chess24. I'll go to lobby there and play one game. Vanessa, are you ready for me to start the game? Okay, let me start the game. So this game I am playing black against Simwalker. Waiting for my opponent. Okay, so he made the move. Let's try the Alekai defense. This is not something I usually play, but it is still an interesting opening. And even our world champion Magnus Carlsen play this from time to time, so I don't think it's too bad. So obviously in the opening, white is able to get a lot of space, and black has the bishop on the long diagonal trying to create counterplay. So I believe the idea here should be d5. Otherwise, white is gonna play d5 soon. So I play d5, white should play c5, then I go knight c8. And then I try to bring my knight to f5, like this. Knight e7, knight f5, attacking d4. That's white's main weakness here. White should try to play on the queen side, like a3, b4, b5, but he's not fast enough here, I think. I'm attacking d4, and he has to go knight e2 to defend d4. Then maybe I have knight h4. That's a possible move. Okay, bishop g5 I don't like, because now I just move the queen, and then d4 will fall. I was thinking where to move the queen though. I could move it to maybe a5 or d7, but I think d7 seems a little bit more solid. And then next move, I'm gonna take on d4 with either knight, and then black will have a very strong center. So bishop g5 was not a good move. He had to play knight e2 there, although black is already fine, I believe, with maybe knight h4 or even b6. All typical ideas here. So this opening, this is the main trick for black in this opening. Give up the bishop pair, but try to attack d4. Okay, so knight b5, interesting move. What if I go a6? Not sure where the knight is going to. Okay, g4. That's a very brave move. So I have to take on d4, I think. Maybe ab is also not bad. Let's go ab and then knight d4. Because I have knight f3 check, so he has to move the bishop, and then I take on f5. I'm 2 pawns up. Should be winning for black. Yeah, rook has to go there. And then let me play b4. So I don't want to allow him to get b4 himself. So I play b4. Sometimes I might have bishop c3, but the main thing is just to prevent him from playing b4. And if it took on b4, then I have rook takes a2. So everything is good. Okay, so he has a small trick here. Rook takes e6 is the threat. So let me go queen a5 just to prevent that. And then knight d4. Yeah, attacking both the rooks and also threatening knight f3, which is the main threat actually. So yeah, this is totally winning for black. Okay, let me go bishop c3. And then maybe d4. Just trying to simplify the position, and with that much material advantage, should be a very easy win for black. So yeah, white is losing all the pieces here. Okay, good game, good game. So let me come back to the session and see what questions we have so far. Okay, I'll play another game just to wait for more questions, and then I'll start answering. So yeah, any questions you guys want to ask me about chess, about anything else, I'm happy to answer them. So let's go with another game. Okay, so I'm black in this game, and my opponent is Syrian 77. Okay, let's try this b5. So the idea of b5 is to get my bishop on the long diagonal and use that to oppose the white's bishop on g2, which is supposed to be white's best placed piece in this setup. So white is having a very flexible setup with the two bishops on the long diagonals, and so am I. Okay, let's go b4. Try to gain some space. Or should I go a6? I think a6 is a little bit better, keeping everything more flexible. So it's a very symmetrical position. So this is going to be a very long maneuver game, positional game. So I don't see any special plan for both sides here. Probably just waiting for now. Okay, first question, should I play e5 to close the center? I don't think so. Let me just keep it open for now. And maybe I'll offer the exchange of the bishops. So my knight then can come to e6 and eyeing the d4 square. Okay, so let me go knight e6, knight d4. But then white can have knight e3, knight d5. So maybe not so great. Let me take bc. So I forced. Wait, actually he had to take bc because this move just dropped a pawn. Yeah, he had to play bc, and that's why I waited for knight e3 to take bc so that he cannot take dc. And I wanted him to take bc, then I go e6, bishop c6, and I can try to claim that my light square bishop is slightly more active than white's light square bishop. But right now I'm just up a pawn because he forgot about this. So knight h4 is, wow, that's a very good move, I think. Very interesting move. So if I take b1, he has knight e5, knight e7. He has some compensation. Not sure how much though, but I'll just take g2 and play knight f6. Seems easier, or e6. We go knight f6. Seems easier and safer. So I do not want to allow his knight to get to d5. And in the meantime, my knight will try to get to d4. That's a better square. Okay, I take, I go knight d4. Queen d7 is not good because I have knight f3 check and then rook d7 intermediate move and winning the exchange. So he has to go queen maybe e3, e4 now. Sorry, queen e3, I have knight c2. So queen e4 is only good move. Okay, so he found that. What should I do here? Queen a5. Yeah, let's try to attack the pawns. So queen a5 attacking a2. I may have to play e5 or e6 soon. I may try rook e8 and e6. For now, my e7 pawn is poisoned. He cannot take it. Knight f4, I just take a2. It's not possible to defend a2 now. So knight h4 is, the idea is to defend f3, obviously. So let me go rook e8, just also to defend e7 and prepare e5 maybe, or e6. So he still doesn't have a defense for the a2 pawn. He has queen b1, but I doubt he could play such a move. Okay, rook d4 is just a, yeah, it's not a good move. So it's, yeah, he's giving up the exchange for nothing. And now I'll just go e6. Yeah, he doesn't have any attack here. Okay, I'll give him my 2 rooks for the queen. Oh, he doesn't want that. But then he's just losing the rook. So yeah, so that's a good game. I think he played the opening and the middle game not bad, but he could have done a little bit better in the middle game when he missed this bc and bishop e4. So, all right, I see some questions now. It's probably a good time to start answering them. Okay, so my first question is from Thomas Nobert, 2050. Which qualities are required to become a great chess player? Okay, very good question. I think there are many qualities necessary, but in general, you have to be you have to have certain degree of talent, certain level of talent. It's not absolutely necessary. Everything can be trained, but most great chess players, they have they're very talented at a very young age. But if you start later in life, I don't think that should be a barrier for you to become a grandmaster or a very strong chess player. So in my opinion, to become a grandmaster, you don't need to have any special talent. You can train to be a grandmaster. So you have to be willing to work hard. So work ethics. You have to be able to focus mentally, and in general, you have to have a passion for the game of chess to be willing to put in the amount of work required to become a great chess player. So I would say number 1 is passion. Number 2 is work ethics. So I would say if you have those, then you can become a grandmaster. It's not an issue. So the second question also from the same person is, how does one prepare for games against Magnus? Yeah, so the thing about Magnus is that he can play any opening. So it's really difficult to prepare against him. He's just like Ivanchuk, if you play against Ivanchuk, you probably just rest well before the game and be ready for anything. You can review what you have, but you cannot really predict what he's gonna do. I doubt he even knows what he's gonna do like far in advance. Maybe he decide that morning or something. But in general, against players who have a very wide knowledge and repertoire like Magnus or Ivanchuk, you just cannot predict their opening choices. So you have to be ready. I think the most important thing to prepare against Magnus is to be ready mentally. So you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do well against him, and you respect him, but you shouldn't be afraid of him. So then you should know your stuff very well also. So one doesn't have to play too many openings, but you should know your own stuff very well, and just get ready physically, mentally. Um, so be very focused, respect him, but also not, I mean, not be too afraid. So you have to be confident as well. It's easier said than done, and many players have tried that and failing. But yeah, I believe some of the best players can play well against Magnus, and we'll see. Okay, the next question is, do you think you could have become a more regular super tournament player if you hadn't gone to study in the USA? Are you tempted to switch chess federation? Okay, thank you for the question, Colin. Very insightful questions, and I know that you have. Thank you for following my chess career. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing, and looking back, so I went to study at Western University in 2013, and I do not regret this decision. Um, although when I went to study in university in the USA, it became harder to play regular tournaments. But at that time, when I went to study, I also didn't have too many super tournaments to play. So in that year, although I won the World List Championship in 2013 in Kantimansis, but I didn't get too many invitations to top tournaments, and my rating was stuck at the low 2700 for a few years already at that time. So I decided that I needed something new to change, and I do not regret my decision to go to the USA because um, when I went here, I also met with a lot of great players, and I have a great coach, and I train with them. They help me to become a better player. So also, I believe that receiving a good education is is very important, and it helps me become the person and the player I am today. So I cannot really regret that. Uh, but looking back, I mean, if I have had more tournaments around that time, maybe I could have tried harder to become a professional chess player earlier. But I don't think that's a wrong decision. I don't think this is too late to become a professional chess player. Obviously, now that I've graduated um, from university, I am now trying to become a better player, and I think it's not too late for me to get back into the game, try to play more tournaments, try to win more. So about your second question, if I am tempted to switch chess federation, so I have never really thought seriously about this matter. I currently live in the United States, but I'm still playing for Vietnam, which I'm very proud, and I don't see any reason to switch federation at this time. Okay, the next question from second Stubby is, what is a solid and good defense against one d4? Okay, so that's a very good question. But again, nowadays you can pretty much play anything. Any opening is playable if you study it well enough. So I would say it's a matter of preference. You have to decide what you like, what you don't like, what type of position suits your style. But from what I can say is a lot of top players nowadays, and also in the history of chess, have been relying on the Queen's Gambit decline. So like this knight f6, e6, d5, bishop e7. So very solid system, and I'm sure that this system will stay here for a very long time. It has been around since probably Capablanca and the kind, maybe even before that, and it never stopped being popular. So I would say that's a very solid defense against d4. Okay, I got a question from a Vietnamese fan in Vietnamese, and I'm gonna answer that in English. So the question is about how to manage my time between university and chess. So I assume this person is also multitasking between chess and other stuff, and he wants to know how to manage his time better. So that's a very logical question, very legitimate question, and yeah, and I have to say it's not easy, but of course it's doable. So you just have to prioritize your goals appropriately. So like if you have a big tournament coming up shortly, then you spend as much time as possible for chess. But then if you have a break and then you have an exam, then of course you're gonna spend time on your school exams. So it's just that you have to plan ahead. You have to be very efficient with your time. Like don't waste time on unproductive things. And so if you concentrate on chess, just try to get as much done as possible in that time frame, maybe an hour, maybe two, and then you go do something else also very productive with that. So yeah, I would say that it's just about blending and being committed to your goals and try to do it in a very effective way. Okay, so the next question is, it seems like there is a smaller gap between you and the upper elite at fast time control. Why do you think that is? Okay, so I'm not sure if the gap between me and let's say the top 10 players is smaller in Blitz comparing to classical. Um, it might be true, it might not be true. I'm just not sure about that. I mean, some players can be really good at anytime control. Some players are just good at classical or rapid, but not at Blitz. I could I could say that probably that's because some people do not like Blitz or rapid that much, or they don't practice it as much. So it's a matter of practice and priorities as well. So if one is very focused on classical only, then naturally he would not be as strong at the faster time control. But nowadays, many top tournaments um, play with this time control, the faster time control with Blitz and Rapid. So I think it's logical for everyone to play it. For me personally, I have always liked Rapid and Blitz. I don't really like Bullet too much. Bullet is more like for entertainment only, but for Rapid and Blitz, I really like those. time controls, and I try to play as much as I can. So maybe that's one thing. I practice more often, so maybe I am a little bit better at rapid and blitz than I am at classical. Also, when you reduce the time control, the chance factor is increasing. So in a longer time control, people have a lot of time to think. They make less mistakes, fewer mistakes, and in faster time control, we have to rely more on our intuition. So sometimes our intuition is correct, sometimes it's not. So there's a factor of luck there. Sometimes people call it luck, but it's still skill based. I mean, if you're not very skilled, you probably wouldn't get lucky very often. So yeah, I think that's a legitimate question, and one that I would say it's probably more of practice than it is due to luck. Okay. The next question is, have you ever played the London with 2 knight c3? And what is your favorite non-chess book? Okay, so London with knight c3. You mean d4, knight f6, knight c3, right? So I don't believe I have played in classical in any official tournament. I may have played a couple of times in one of these online games, but it's not. Yeah, right now I cannot recall it, so probably I don't do that very often. But I do study that from the black side. So because I play, if my opponents play d4, I play knight f6 too. So obviously I have studied knight c3 from the black side. Yeah, so I think it's playable. It's playable, especially in Blitz and Rapid when your opponents may not be as familiar with it. Just that for me personally, I would normally try to play something more principle, because in my opinion, in those little variations, if your opponent knows what to do, it's really difficult to get any advantage at all. So yeah, I have not played very often, but maybe who knows, maybe I'll try it in my next tournament. Okay, who was your favorite chess player when you were a child? Okay, so yeah, great question. So growing up in Vietnam, I didn't have too many chess books at that time, but I remember reading stories about Karpov, Kasparov, Korchnoi, during that time, Fischer. Yeah, so it was really interesting to learn from them, and I think I admire Kasparov the most. He is one of the best players of all time, and his style is so aggressive. It's so interesting to learn from his tactics, his skills. So yeah, I think he's one of my favorite chess players of all time. Even when I was child and including now, he's still one of my favorite players. Okay, who is better, Magnus or Hikaru? Okay, great question. So at this time, I don't think anyone can say that they are at the same level with Magnus. So Magnus is just clearly better than everyone else in any time control, any format, round robin, knockouts, um, bullet, blitz, classical, rapid, anything. So I believe Magnus is better. as a chess player at this time. I know online Hikaru is one of the very best players in the world, and I have played him many times when I was younger. And he's a great player. Of course, he's one of the best, and I know that he did really well in the Chess 24 in the Magnus Carlsen Tour earlier this year. And he proved to be a formidable opponent for Magnus. But I mean, if I have to bet between these two players, I have to say Magnus is still a favorite. And maybe in the future we will see someone else emerge from the chess world that can have the ability to challenge Magnus. And I hope to see that, because then we'll have a more interesting matches to follow. Okay, so let me see. Okay, I see a question about a question from guys. Are you going to enter any video series in the near future? You mean lesson series or tournament? I mean, if you are talking about tournament, then the next one I'm playing is this Skilling Open on Chess 24, which starts next week. I believe the coming Sunday, actually. So yeah, this is gonna be my first big online tournament ever, I guess. And I'm gonna have so many great opponents there, including Magnus himself. So I look forward to it and have been preparing, looking forward to that challenge. So if you're talking about lesson series, then yes, I'm planning to produce some video series for my chess students. So I work with Chess 24 team to do that, prove the chessable course, and you guys will see that in the near future. So yeah, stay tuned and you get more information about that once my course is ready. Okay, how does one improve if he's 2500 already? Okay, I assume you're talking about FIDE classical rating. So at 2500, one is already at the approximately at the GM level. So a Grandmaster level, as I said at the beginning, I believe do not require any special talent. You can train to become a Grandmaster. But beyond that level, you have to have a deeper commitment. You have to be willing to work full time on chess. So it's like, yeah, it's like a full time job. So you have to spend considerable amount of time studying your own games, studying the top level games, learn where your weaknesses are, try to fix them. You have to play some practice games with players of your strength or higher. You have to go to tournaments, good tournaments, to play and practice your skills. Yeah, so I could say it's just a lot of commitment. So serious commitment, not only time, but also sometimes money, sometimes like mental commitment as well. So it is possible, I believe, to improve over 2500 to get to 2600, 2700 with a good principle for training, with a good approach for training. So the question from Andrew Dubishop is, do you agree with Gustafsson and Nielsen ranking Hall of Fame? 1 Kasparov, 2 Carlsen, 3 Fischer. So yeah, I have read that ranking by these two uh, commentators about the Hall of Fame. I think it's I think the whole ranking is very reasonable. Whether it's well, the top three is, I think they put it correctly. Not sure about the order, but I mean these three players definitely are the best in the history. But whether they are number 1 to 3 according to that order is something that you can debate. So some would say that Fischer had a great track record in defeating his opponents in a very overwhelming way, great score, totally dominating. Kasparov also the same way. He yeah, he's a great player. He dominated for a long time. Carlsen also, but he about Carlsen is more like because he's more recent, right? So his domination time is not that long yet, but he's still working on it. So I really don't know because I mean the Kasparov and Fischer are no longer professional chess players, so we cannot really compare people from different times. Um, but I would say I think these three are very close in their strengths, and they're all my favorites. For now, I think that's reasonable to put that in to put them in that order. But maybe 10 years from now or 20 years from now, if Carlsen is still the world champion and he has proved that he dominates the whole world for a much longer period of time, he increases rating to 2,900, 3,000, something like that, then yeah, then maybe everyone will agree that he deserves the number 1 spot. But for now, I think with respect to Kasparov, more than 20 years of domination in chess, I think it's okay to put him as number 1. Okay, so I'm waiting for more questions from you guys. No, I try to open the YouTube link and see if I have more questions from there. So I see some questions on YouTube, and I mean, I'll try to answer all questions, but to keep it easier to follow, if you guys can all post it on the Chess34 main page, it will be easier for me to read the questions. So I see a question about my favorite non-chess book. So yeah, so outside of chess, I have other interests as well, in business in general, finance. That's my major in university, and yeah, I recently read a non-chess book about okay, not very recent. It was probably a few years ago. Uh, the name is Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I think that's a pretty good one. It's about how how to make money work for you instead of working for money. So it's more about investments in general and changing the mindset for people um, to become more successful financially. And well, most of the things I already know from my finance classes at Webster University, but I think it's a very interesting book for people at old age. And yeah, other than that, I also read a few other interesting books. So recently, I've been trying to read at least two books a month, not related to chess. So recently, I read about what is it, the one about Theranos, the startup company, the healthcare startup company that went from nothing to a billion, like a company with a billion valuation, and then went down to zero again. So it's pretty interesting story from those startup companies in Silicon Valley. Also, I read about healthcare system in the US. I read about I read about AI, big data, um, so investments in general, real estate. So all of those, I really like them. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many good books out there that if you find one to your interest, I think there will be tremendous resources out there to learn from. So let's go back to chess. I got some questions about how many of the players in the Skilling Open have you played before? So let me see. Magnus, I have played with him a few times, only in Rapid and Blitz, not in Classical. My score with him is terrible. I don't think I have gotten any draw yet. So I have to try to work on that. And Levon Aronian, I play with him many times too. Wesley, so I also play with him. I believe he's in the Skilling Open too. Neponianchi, I also play with him already, so that's 4 already. Ding Liren, I also played many times before. Vidit, I also played before. Duda, I think I played Duda once in a classical game, not a rapid uplist. So that's already 7, right? And then I don't know who else. MPL, yeah, MPL I played with before too. So I would say most of the players there I probably already played many times. So yeah, regardless, it's gonna be a great tournament. Yeah, Giri also, of course, yeah, I played him before too. So yeah, it's gonna be a very tough tournament. Okay, so any suggestions on how to study the Queen's Gambit decline, books, videos, etc.? Yeah, so for any opening, I think you should first start at looking at the games of the top players. So you see how they play this opening. You see the new trend lately. Also, a good start is to find a good book. I'm not sure about. I cannot remember the name of a book on this opening right now. But I think if you just do a search, normally you should be able to find many resources. Maybe right here on Chess24, you should be able to get some resources, videos there. I'm sure some players have published books or video about that. But in general, I mean, you check the games of the top players, you read the annotation to the games where the players will explain their thoughts. Maybe they give some variations to go here and there. And just from learning these games, reading some books, listening to some videos, that should be a good start. And then you start playing out those positions with a friend or a training partner to familiar yourself with this opening. So it's a step-by-step process. Eventually you'll get better. That's the way I learn any new opening. Okay, so how does one get from 2200 FIDE level to 2400? What books could be recommended for that level? Okay, so I think to improve from 2200 to 2400, there's a lot of work. So first of all, you should work on your end game, I think. So I can recommend one very good book that I have used very often. Even now, I still refer to it from time to time. That's the Dvoretzky Endgame Manual. So it's a very good book to learn the most important endgames for chess level, for chess players at all levels. And then I only use that one for endgame. I think that's very comprehensive. And then you practice more, you practice tactics by solving puzzles. There are lots of books about puzzles out there. You can try Tactics Frenzy on Chess24. You can try many stuff online, many websites online that allow you to do that. But Tactics Frenzy, I think, is one of the good resources there. And then, yeah, then you just have to, probably the best way would be to have a coach, a regular coach who can walk you through that process, who can talk to you after each game and show you what you have done wrong and how to improve that. So I think that would be the best and the fastest way to improve. But if you don't have a coach, it's possible to do it by yourself. You just have to be very objective with yourself. So not only, you should look not only at your wins, but also at your losses, especially at your losses, and be very objective with what you, with your evaluation. Even if you win it, you cannot say, okay, I win this game, it means I have done everything correctly. That's rarely the case. You may win because your opponent blundered something or you got lucky, but there's something there that you shouldn't do in your future games. So you have to be very objective in evaluation yourself thoroughly, and that's the way to improve. Okay, so Andrew Dubishop has another question. He said he's 2337 FIDE rating, already FIDE master. I always used to have universal opening repertoire. Do you think it's good or bad? It's good, or maybe it's better to be more specialized in a few ones? So yeah, I could say you don't need to have a very big, very universal openings repertoire. You probably could be better off knowing a few things really well. So being very specialized in a few ones, I would say that's a better start. The main thing is that those that you're specialized in, that has to be comprehensive enough so you can meet any move from your opponent. So let's say against e4, you know only one opening really well. Against d4, you know one opening really well. Against c4, you know one opening really well. That's probably enough already to do well, even get to the Grandmaster level, I believe. But the key thing from my experience is if you only know one opening and you refuse to learn other openings, it um, it kind of kills your motivation to improve at chess. I'll put it that way, because you know if you just play one opening over and over again, at some point you feel bored with chess in general, and you don't feel that you learn anything new. And then at that moment, it means you stop improving. So what I have been doing is that I try to learn certain openings very well, and then at some moments when I feel um, that I have mastered that opening enough, then I'll pick up another opening to learn. So I'll keep learning. I'll keep learning new things, and I don't know. In the future, it may be useful when you have different weapons to use against your opponent. So it will also make you less predictable when your opponent, just like Magnus or Chucky, when they cannot predict what you're gonna play. So that's gonna give you an advantage. But as a start, I would say being specialized in a few openings is better than knowing many openings but just a few moves. So that's my advice to you. Okay, what's your favorite openings, Lim? Um, I do have a few favorite openings. So, for example, against e4, I do play Berlin, I do play Sicilian, I do play Caro-Kann, um, I do play French sometimes too. So whatever I play, they're usually what I like. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing them. Against d4, I know how to play, for example, Grunfeld, for example, Nimzo. So yeah, I mean there are a lot of things I can play, and usually the more you start learning about them, the better you will become, and you like all those openings. Okay, I got another question from Lucas Wedrichowski. May I ask you about what's your favorite way of organizing your opening files? Do you use a specific software? Is it possible to show how you structure a database? Uh, yeah, I can answer this. So I think most players nowadays they use Chessbase for as a domain software, and the way I answer, the way I arrange it is just that I create a folder for each opening. So let's say I study about Nadov, right? So I've just put a folder with the name Nadov there, and then I create a chess-based file, maybe PGN, maybe CPH, and then you just put in your work in there, or whatever games that you feel would be useful to know, you could put in that file, and whatever videos you buy, books you buy, you put in there too. So whenever you have a question about Nadov, or I have a question about Nadov, I can go back to that folder, check all the references in there, and decide what to do. So yeah, I think it's just a very normal way to keep it organized, so it's easier to check back when we need. Okay, Andrew the Bishop has another question. I'm FIDE master. Main problem I have is to fully understand my style. Sometimes I play sharp, sometimes positional, and pick correct repertoire. Okay, it is. It is not easy to say my style is sharp, my style is positional. I believe that the best chess players have to be universal as well. They can play many different type of positions. So if you find that you are universal, that's probably a good thing, not a bad thing. And yeah, so how to pick the correct openings? So I would say you probably, when you follow the top level games and you see some openings that you like, you feel that you can play that way, then just do a little more research about that opening, try to be more specific about that opening. And then, okay, at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you choose a new one, and you will still have study from it. So I think it's not a problem to pick a wrong opening per se. There's no wrong opening. It's just if you like it or not. So if you pick something and you try it out and then you don't like, then just move on to another opening. And who knows, this opening may be useful in the future. So in chess, I think all the knowledge is useful. So don't be afraid to waste your time. It's time well spent if you spend it on studying openings. Okay, so another question from Lucas. Say Jan Gustafsson once mentioned that, according to his opinion, there are only a few truly correct openings against one e4. The knight off, Sveshnikov, the Marshall Gambit, the open Spanish, and the Burden. What's your opinion on that list? And if so, could you provide your own list against one d4? Very interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that Jan put that list out there. And I mean, his choices are very, very reasonable. Of course, nobody has been able to refute these openings. And I think it's very, very reasonable. Although some of the other half correct openings like Caracan or French, I mean, they still got play from time to time. So I don't think they're too bad. But yeah, if you ask about d4, I think the Queen's Gambit decline is definitely at the top of the list. Or Nimzo for that matter. So Nimzo or Queen's Gambit decline, I would put it roughly in the same category. And then of course there's Grunfen, which is a very reliable opening. So for d4, I think the choices are narrower for black. I would say only these two openings that I have the most confidence in them. There are a few others, but they are a bit more risky. Oh, sorry, I forgot about Slav. Of course, Slav. Yeah, Slav is also one of the correct opening against d4. So Slav or semi-Slav, I put it. Yeah, so I would say semi-Slav, semi-Slav, Queen's Gambit decline, and Grunfeld are the three correct openings against d4. Again, just very similar to one e4. I mean, there are a few openings out there which is risky, but not really refuted, like Tarash defense, even King's Indian defense. I mean, it has not been refuted yet. So But those are more risky than the 3 openings that I mentioned. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions. Best books on positional play for 1600 USCF. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with USCF ranking and the rating, but I think that 1600 USCF is about 1500 FIDE. So at that level, I think you should benefit from the more traditional basic books like My System from Dimsovich. It explains in great deal about positional understandings in general. So it will help you develop your understanding of the positions, the pieces, how to where to put your pieces, how to evaluate positions. There are a few books out there. I think I cannot recall them right now, but I think my former coach at Webster University, Grandmaster Susan Polga, she had a very good series for a book series um, for players at all levels, especially at for people at the below 2000. So you should be able to check that. Just Google it. I think you should find many books that's useful for you. How many hours do you spend studying and preparing for tournaments? Okay, so as I said at the beginning, it's a full-time job. It's a big commitment to be a professional chess player. And before big tournaments like this Skilling Open, I have to take it very seriously, at least 8 hours a day, preparing my opponents, looking at my openings, trying to work on my tactics, my technique. So it's yeah, it's very serious. Okay, Andrew Dubishop uh, asked about my opinion about AI neural engines in chess. Great question. I think it's the new trend now for the AI neural engines like Lila, Fatfritz, Komodo, some of the newer versions. They're trying to learn from this AlphaZero technique of self-study, and I think um, it's a great future for AI neural engines. I don't know how good they are for now. I think it's very comparable to the traditional engines like Stockfish. So Stockfish 12, I think for now is still my favorite engine I use when I analyze chess. But I also try to use at least 2, sometimes 3 different engines when I study. So I can use Stockfish, Lila, Komodo at the same time, for example. So we don't have to pick only one of them. We are not playing them. We're using them to help us improve. So why don't we use all of them, the best of them, to give us more insight. And then, when you use 2 or 3 engines, you run them at the same time, and you see the move they recommend. Maybe sometimes they agree with each other, sometimes they have different recommendations. You just try them all out, and then you learn from them. You quickly learn which move is best, and then you just make sure that you don't miss any move. Your engine do not miss any move. Yes. Okay. Sure. Okay. I'll try to ask a few more questions. Sorry, answer a few more questions, and then we finish. Okay. Okay. I see another question from Lucas about do we have any hope of seeing you record a video series on Chess24? Yeah, we do. We do. So that's the plan. So I'm gonna have a video series on Chessable and Chess24. So you guys just stay tuned, and then you guys will see it probably in the near future. Okay, so I got another question that I see that you have been switching to 1e4 openings recently. Why do you do that, given that you were doing very well with 1d4? So yeah, to keep myself motivated to play chess. So this is also related to an earlier question I answered before. So I believe that you have to keep learning, you have to keep enjoying the game, otherwise you lose that motivation to improve at chess. So the way I do it is to keep myself surprised and learning new stuff. So if yeah, d4 has been my main weapon for a while, and now I am trying to be a more universal player and play e4 more often. So of course, I'm going to be surprised in a few cases. My opponents may out-prepare me, but in the same time, I'll learn something new, and that's what keeping me motivated and interested in the game. Okay, let me try a couple more questions from YouTube, and let me see if I have any new question there. If everyone in the world play chess, do you think Magnus could still be the champion, or could there be unknown talent hiding somewhere? Interesting question. So, yeah, if everyone play chess, well, that's a very interesting question. If everyone play chess, I think for now, Magnus could still be the world champion, because it doesn't suddenly become, you may have a hidden talent, but you cannot just suddenly become the world champion. It's a long process to practice, to learn better. So with just talent, I don't believe you can get to the top level. So if someone has the best talents, but they're not committed to become a professional chess player, if they just play chess for fun, I don't think they would be able to get to the top level at all. They have to play so many tournaments professionally, spend a lot of time studying chess and practicing chess. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe in the next 10 years or something, someone will emerge as a worthy challenge to Magnus. So that's just, I think we'll just have to wait and see that. Okay, I think that's all for now. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. And I look forward to talking with you in another session. Okay.